I don't want to lower the bar from anybody because they've been through some crap. Put it high. Put it high and go for those big dreams and goals, the impossible ones.
I feel like in your situation, in similar situations, for people to go through intense trauma, nobody would blame you. If you decided, well, I was a foster kid and I had no opportunities and I grew up really, really poor and well, I'm living on welfare now because that's the way that things worked out. But you made a choice to not become that. And when people go through adversity, I always wonder, where does that choice come from? When you decide, I don't want to be what I could be and nobody would blame me for because what's happened to me, why did you choose to take responsibility for it and become something else?
As you're asking that, it makes me think of a story that happened to me in 5th grade. My teacher's name was Mr. Smith, and I really should find him and thank him because he made a huge impact in my life. Even though, if you can imagine, he was, I think probably I would guess it, if you imagine a teacher a year or two away from retirement, old and grumpy, and that was Mr. Smith at the time. And I never would have guessed that someone like that would have a huge impact. And at the time, I honestly had no idea what this little encounter that we had that 5th grade year would have. But now in reflecting and looking back, I'm like, that changed my whole way of looking at my life and my circumstances. As you can imagine, I got into trouble a lot in elementary school. I just couldn't sit still. The focus wasn't there. School was hard for me. Neither of my parents could read and write very well, so I had zero help at home. No memories of having books read to me, which is every kid's, should have that memory. But I just struggled in school, and so I think I got into trouble a lot. And I remember many times I would have to sit in at recess, and Mr. Smith would have me sit at my desk. I was the only kid in the classroom, and he made me stare at the clock. And I would just stare at the clock as they painfully, every second would tick by. And I would stare at the clock. I could hear the kids out at recess playing and laughing and having fun. And I'd be staring at that clock. And here I am, just another time in trouble, staring at the clock. And he came over. And I think what was so different about Mr. Smith than everybody else in my life is that I think a lot of people knew that I had a pretty crappy life. They knew about the foster care. They knew about being poor. And honestly, I think most people felt really sorry for me, except for Mr. Smith. He didn't. And I remember him coming up to me that recess, and he says to me, I know you've had a tough life, but at some point you got to make a decision on what you want to do with it. And, I'm thinking, God, what a jerk at the time. But as you kind of think about that, I remember long later thinking, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I can make the life that I want. What do I want to do with my life? I have some things I am really good at. Athletic things came natural. I mean, my PE class was the only part of the day that wasn't a struggle. Recess and lunch, my 3 favorite things. And so I think it started a thought process of maybe things could be different. Maybe I didn't have to make the same choices that my parents were making. Maybe I didn't have to make the same choices that some of my siblings were making. Maybe I could change my family tree. Maybe I could make something of my life. And I think I held on to that hope. And I think getting into sports, you're around that positivity. You're around those other role models and those influences. And most of the time, those sporting influences of coaches and players, they all have big dreams. So what do? Well, you want to dream big too. But I think having that moment with Mr. Smith and having someone that didn't feel sorry for me, that didn't lower the bar, that they said, you know what? Doesn't matter. Keep the bar high. Make your life something. Do something with it. Don't lower the bar because you feel sorry for somebody. And so I think that was really impactful. And I think the older I get, the more I realize that was such a big moment. And the more I think about it, and even trying to do it in my own life.